So for this test, we've been looking at bikes that are derived from those that we'll see in the Pro Tour this summer. Obviously, the Grand Tours, the Tour de France, etc., is a place where bike sponsors can just look to showcase their latest technical innovations. But normally those bikes, you know, you're looking at a price tag approaching 5 figures, which is all well and good, but if bike companies have to survive on selling just those, then they wouldn't be able to support multi-million pound teams in any way, shape or form. Luckily for us, that means you can get lots and lots of bikes at much more affordable prices. So we've looked at 6 bikes ranging from just over £1,000 up to £3,000, but every single one has a direct lineage into a Pro Tour bike. The 6 bikes we've been looking at are Cannondale SuperSix Evo Tiagra 6, the Merida Scultura 4000, Specialized Tarmac Sport, Lapier Xelius SL500, the Bianchi Oltre XR 1.1 Ultegra, and finally Giant's TCR Advanced 3. The Cannondale SuperSix Evo may not be the top of Cannondale's race tree anymore. That's now reserved for the new high mod Evo. But it's worth remembering that this chassis is what Peter Sagan founded his whole reputation on. You know, this bike is devastatingly quick, fantastic handling, and when it was first launched, it was one of the lightest frame sets around. The fact that it's now been trickled down to such a low price is an impressive thing in itself. The bike still retains that, you know, fantastic geometry. It's long, it's low, the angles are sharp, it steers really nice and quick. The downside, however, is that you've got such a great core of a bike, but Cannondale have had to compromise quite a lot to get it down to what is a phenomenally low price for such a high grade frame. So we did find that although the handling is still there and everything else, it just didn't have that willingness, it didn't have that get up and go. The wheels are a bit weighty, they feel sluggish on the road, the tyres aren't the greatest, and there's lots and lots of, you know, little compromise throughout the bike. That said, you know, if you're looking for something that's not going to have much of an initial outlay that you can upgrade to your heart's content, then this is still a worthwhile bike. So the Merida Scultura 4000 uses their previous generation CF2 frame, which has got curves and swoops and really lots of nice lovely shaping, which makes it a really attractive bike, and a massive contrast to the new Scultura, which is all straight lines, angles and super low weight. But what they have retained across both of those models, and especially in this CF2 based one, is a bike that really has a great feel, a great ride. It's smooth, it's balanced, the steering and handling are really nice and stable. In all, it's a really, really good proposition. Again, it's very, very well priced. It has a few little compromises, but they're not quite as apparent on this one as they were on the Evo. But what we really do like about the Sculptura is, although it's very, very much a race bike, the geometry on it isn't quite as aggressive as its competitors. So it has a little bit more of a relaxed position. It's a bike that you'd probably be much more happier, you know, riding all day, every day, and not just when you've got to be, you know, down in the hooks, really, really hammering it. So the Specialized Tarmac Sport, obviously the Tarmac, you know, is a frame that's just based on winning. It's got to be the most successful bike riding in the peloton right now, and not just because Specialized are involved in so many teams. For this one, again, which is a fairly low-cost bike, it does share exactly the same shaping, exactly the same geometry as the super expensive S-Works. In fact, it's using the same molds, it's just using a much lower grade of carbon. We've criticised Specialized in the past for being less than generous on spec, but for 2016 it seems like they've really got their house in order. We've got a real nice quality saddle, we've got real nice quality Specialized bar tape, but the biggest factor is they've put some really expensive tyres on this bike, and good tyres on any bike are just going to make it set it alive, and it really seems to work here. So well done Specialized, that's clever speccing. Now we've got the Bianchi Oltre XR1 Ultegra. Now the XR1 frame set is actually the original Ultre, and it's worth remembering that the original Ultre was one of the first bikes that combined true aerodynamic touches into a super light race bike. It's now been superseded by the XR2, which became a little stiffer in a few crucial areas, as all new versions of bikes do, and it lost a little bit of weight. But the Ultre still is one of our favourite bikes to ride. It's so exciting, the geometry is so sorted, it's so rapid. Here it's the most expensive bike on test, but it does get full Ultegra. It does have a really nice component package, and this is a frame that has been raced at Pro Tour level, and when you ride it, it really shows. Lapier Xelius XL 500. This is a really, really great looking bike. It's really radical, it's really different. It's got this kind of Suedo GT inspired triple triangle thing going on at the back. It's a real thing that just looks fast standing still. We also like the way that Lapierre have gone about speccing this bike. They've got some real nice quality stuff there. Obviously keeping with the French flavour, they've gone for Mavic for the wheels, but then up front you've got a really nice zip cockpit. It's got full Shimano 105 with no emissions, and that includes the brakes. Quite often that's where companies will look to cut a corner or two. Plus, let's not forget that unlike most of its rivals, what you're getting here is the same SL frame set that Team FDJ are using in the Tour. But our favourite bike in the test was Giant's TCR Advanced 3, which is quite the surprise because it's also the cheapest. We were lucky enough throughout Bike of the Year to have a couple of other iterations of the Advanced. We had a super high spec SL and then a sort of around £3 version as well. Both were absolutely brilliant. You know, we even gave it the accolade of our favourite race bike of the year. So it was really interesting to see if something at such a cheap price could actually live up to it. What we found, you know, obviously it shares the same mouldings, it shares the same geometry, but unlike its pricier brothers, this one just gets a standard teardrop aero post that just works on a normal clamp rather than having to cut the seat tube down, which makes it a little bit more usable, makes it easier to transport, and the clamp is extremely clever, so we got none of those issues with the, you know, an aero-shaped post slipping. For the rest of the bike, you know, it's a predominantly Tiagra drivetrain, but it's the new iteration of Tiagra, which looks fantastic. The finish-wise, it easily looks equal of its pricier brothers, 105 and even Ultegra. You may not get that 11th sprocket, but it's still got a really nice wide range of gearing. The shifting's nice and snappy. In fact, it does beg the question, you know, do you really need anything else? Especially when it's wrapped up in a frame that's this good. It's agile, it's nimble, it's light, and it's surprisingly smooth for what is a race bike. You know, there's some serious engineering work gone on it to make this frame surprisingly comfortable. The fact that it you know, outperformed bikes up to 3 times its price is really testament to just how good this new TCR chassis is. So of the 6 bikes we've got here, we'd happily recommend any of them. There are some bikes here that would need less upgrading than others. You know, something like the Ultre, you know, we wouldn't change a thing, but it is seriously more expensive than the rest. Lapierre are doing a fantastic job of putting together really well-spec bikes at great prices at the minute. This TCR, you know, if you're the sort of person that is interested in making a few upgrades and personalising the bike, this is a hell of a starting point, and it's not much of an initial outlay. So it's been a really interesting thing to look at bikes with this tool-derived tech that have actually become so affordable and still retained all the character that we'd like to see, you know, and like to feel when we ride a bike.